You are live.
5 seconds.
Good morning, wherever you happen to home it is. My name is James Henry, you are with Wild Earth TV and this is Safari Live. On camera today we have Viam. Hello Viam. Viam is in summery outfit today because today apparently there is going to be something of a heat wave going through here. That's what the weather said. They've obviously never actually lived here, those people from the weather. We live in a heat wave here in Lowveld. It's currently supposed to be 17 degrees or 60 degrees Fahrenheit, 17 Celsius, and yeah, it's probably not too far off that, but as the sun comes up, and I can feel it starting to burn on the back of my neck, I think it's going to be an absolute scorcher today. On the other vehicle is Brent Leo Smith. He's with Jandre, and in case you are wondering how on earth or what on earth we're talking about, you're on a live safari here in the wonders of the western sector of the Kruger National Park, iconic national park that the world has heard about and visited for many, many years, since 1926. I'm standing on a termite mound, and that's not simply because it makes a nice stage for me. Just next to my right hand, is a chimney, out of which quite a lot of metabolic heat is coming, and I can see a whole lot of termites. I'm just going to... The air that comes out of here smells the most tremendous earthy, delicious healing smell, I find. And a termite mound at this time of the year is particularly wonderful because it's the time of year when the termites start to come out, the royals, the flying ants as many call them. They're not ants of course at all, they are termites, and they come out at this time of year because we've had some nice rain now, and they'll start to come out and they'll start new mounds. Millions and millions of them will never come close to starting a mound. What will happen is that males and females will fly off. Females will land, she'll flap her wings like this and exude a pheromone which will travel off into the ether. And if she's lucky, a male will come and find her, and then they will mate and they will dig under the ground and they will perhaps start a new colony like that one there. But of course for millions of them that doesn't become a reality. Some of them don't get further than just outside of the mound. They'll be eaten by frogs and birds and that sort of thing. Some of them land and possibly never find a mate because the mate can't find them. Others will be eaten by lizards, and still others will just die of starvation eventually. But for those lucky very few, I mean the percentages, the chances of success if you're a royal termite are so minute, but for those, that very tiny percentage, probably 0.001% I would say, will create something like that magnificent castle of clay behind me. Now, you are on a live safari, which means you can talk to us in live. Hashtag Safari Live if you want to tweet, or questions@wildearth.tv if you want to email to us. And how it works is that your email or tweet will go through the final control where Tara Dales is twiddling the knobs and Jerry is fiddling with the keys, and they will feed them through this earpiece, which is going to be plugged in now, and then we'll talk to you. And it's a marvelous system, this, because as we drive along through the wonders of the Kruger, hopefully finding various bits and pieces of interesting fauna and flora for you to look at, you can talk to us as we go. Now, Viam also pointed this out, and thank you, Lynn, for that. You can see the heat waves coming out of that little chimney, and that's because there's so much moisture at the moment. It's a coolish morning. Well, I can feel that sun starting to burn already. It's a cool morning, and of course because of the amount of moisture there is in the air in the termite mound, as it comes out it condenses, and that's why you can see it. So we've had lots of rain in the last few days. I'd say we had about 20 millimeters 2 days ago, and then I'd say we had another 10 or so yesterday. So probably 30 mils or so, maybe just a bit less than that. So it's about an inch, between an inch and and a bit more than an inch. And that will bring out, it's already causing a flush in the grass, which is excellent for the grazers. And it's also made the air very sticky. I mean, my hands feel pretty sticky. Wiem, your hands? They're always Viem's hands are always sticky because of the amount of breakfast he brings with him on game drive. Nothing to do with anything else. And of course, Wiem and Jean-Dre, for those of our regular viewers, have just returned from their holidays, fresh and full of excitement for being back in the Kruger Park. Wiem is sporting a new hat, sort of denimish blue, very nice. And thank you all for your very kind welcome backs to all of them. That we spend most of our time on, and we drive down here because there were some leopard tracks seen not too long ago in this area. I'm hoping that we might find evidence of either Karula, maybe even Patile. She's a young female leopard who tends to spend most of her time quite a long way south of us. But I think because there has not been a lot of leopard activity up here, it might have been her that came through here the other day. And maybe she'll quite like it here and hang around. That would be very nice. We haven't had a decent leopard sighting on Djuma for some time. I know Shadow, for those of you who are regular watchers, of course, a 9-year-old female leopard has been on a kill on Arathusa for the last day or two, which is excellent for her. And her mother, Karula, the 11-year-old, we don't know where she is at the moment. So perhaps she's around. But we've had almost no male leopard activity on Djuma itself for, I'd say, almost 3 weeks now. So it would be very good to have some of that. So we're going to drive around these sort of southern sections, around about where Mvula, who's one of the territorial males of the area, used to hang out quite a lot, hasn't for a while, hoping he will come back soon, especially as his son, Quarantine, seems to be hanging around in his area. So I'm sure they'll have to share the area quite carefully. It's a glorious morning. But like I say, I think it's that the light starts off very soft, but on these days that are going to be really hot, what happens is that it kind of burns out very quickly, and what that means is that golden light of the dawn seldom lasts beyond, sort of say 20 minutes after sunrise. So it was a very loud dawn chorus this morning. What we'll do is we'll go onto the dam wall here at Treehouse Dam, and then we'll listen to the dawn chorus. Here we go. Hang on. They had a leopard here last night. I'm just going to get an update for that. Tingana and Karula were here last night. Right here. I will try and find them right around here. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll pull up onto this dam wall here, stop and have a listen. I'll explain this to you now, everybody. Oh, no. Station with who had those 2 leopard at last night. Please can you just go again with their last position and direction? I'm getting it in my ear. Okay, thanks very much. Alright everybody, so this thing here is a radio, of course, and it's the game drive radio, and it's in communication with all the other game drives that are around. And Johan from Buffelshoek, who's a landowner up there, says that he had Tingana and Karula round exactly where we are now last night. So we'll try and follow up on them, and wow, it would be great to see them again. Interesting that they were together again. That suggests that she did not fall pregnant the last time they mated, which was really not very long ago at all. It was about 4 weeks ago. And so maybe she will come into estrus quite quickly again if she doesn't conceive. So let's just have a quick listen to the dawn chorus and perhaps the growl of leopards mating. Many doves calling. And while we're listening to the call of various birds here, we've got a tawny flanked prinia, we've got some ringneck doves. That's beautiful. We've got some starlings. Mark and Diane, you were listening to the Djuma Dam cam earlier, and you say you heard red-chested cuckoos and black cuckoos and starlings and all sorts of other birds, orange-breasted bushshrikes, and that's wonderful. It really is quite a dawn chorus today. Look up, just look in the tree here. Do you see some weavers there? There they are. Are they weavers? They're the first ones I've seen.
They look weavery.
They do look weavery, don't they? Franklin's calling. Emerald spotted wood doves. Now the reason I've got so excited, they're on top of the tree now. They are weavers. Finally, the weavers have arrived, I think completely uncoincidentally with the rain that we've had. I think there's a little bit more moisture around, and so now they're going to start weaving their magic little nests. Yes, I can just hear the tick, 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 tick. That'll be the village weaver. We won't spend too much time here with them, mainly because I want to go and check on the leopard, but also because they will be, they're not quite in their full glorious yellow summer plumage, and they haven't quite started building yet. Right, let us go. Wish us luck. We are going to go and find Tingana and Karula, I hope. Now the difficulty, of course, tracking at this time of the year is the fact that the rain, and combined with a bit of heat, puts a crust on top of the road, and animals which are not heavy, like leopards, don't leave very obvious tracks. So we need to be very careful about how we drive along and make sure that we are looking at, make sure that we don't drive over the tracks. I managed to do that yesterday with some lion tracks. Leopards are, less than half the weight of a male lion. And then the other update I got on the radio there, everyone, was that the Birmingham boys have crossed south at Twin Dam, so they came through Djuma and then they went down south towards Mala Mala, again leaving a vacuum here in Djuma. They've hardly spent any time. One of them crossed through yesterday morning, and I think he's that sort of independent one that spends most of his time on his own, and then the other four came through here and went down south yesterday evening. And if you're wondering where on earth Brent Leo Smith is, Wendy is giving little trouble again this morning with her signal and stuff. She came back from the hospital. She seems to be driving okay, but Eugene is now trying to fix the signal so that he can take a drive as well. So for the moment, I'm afraid it's just me. Well, and the magnificent bush around us, of course. This hopefully pick up some tracks and not too long thereafter, hopefully 2 leopards together. I'm going to check very carefully on the roads. Let's just go back to when we were looking at the termite mound while we're looking for these leopard tracks. And good morning, Chris Rogue. You want to know how many termites an aardvark can eat in one sitting? Chris, wow, I don't know. Hundreds. I think they can eat up to sort of 2 kilograms of termites at a time. And 2 kilograms of termites, of course, would constitute termites only that big in the mound like that. Of course, termites vary in size quite considerably. But, so let's say a termite weighs half a gram. Yeah, what do you think? A gram, half a gram? Okay, so in 2 kilograms, we're looking at about 4,000 termites in a sitting, I'd say at least. That's quite a lot of termites. Now, the leopards were found apparently on this junction last night, and they went north along the drainage line, the radio report said. Now, that's due north there, and there is absolutely nothing in the way of a drainage line there. So let's just look very carefully along here, and we'll check Twin Dams Road as well. So they're also, you'll see me doing this every so often, and it's because there are a whole lot of spiders around the place, little spiderlings. And I was listening to the autobiography of David Attenborough the other day, and I'm sure you're all familiar with his wonderful voice as he narrates some of the world's most spectacular natural history for the BBC. And David Attenborough talked about spiderlings and how a spiderling is a baby spider, of course. They come out of their eggs and then they climb to the top of a grass stalk or a tree, and they sit there and they let out a strand of silk from their spinnerets. And that strand gets longer and longer and longer and longer until it catches enough air for them to fly off. And that's called ballooning. And often, if you drive around like this, you will be hit by silk, and that'll be the spiderlings that are just ballooning around trying to find a place to stay. And sometimes those spiderlings apparently can get caught up in the wind and travel to up to 20,000 feet above sea level. Now, that in meters, if you divide by 3, is pretty high. Call it about just under 6,000 meters. That's 6 kilometers up into the sky. Not quite as high as Everest, but not far off. So just carefully checking the road for tracks, checking the drainage line. You can drive past a leopard with great ease because they are very well camouflaged, of course, and the bush is pretty thick now. This time of the year, you've got to be particularly careful when you're looking, because the trees have all got their leaves, the grass is starting to come up, so it's pretty easy for animals to hide around here. So there's been a lot of debate of late about the virility of Tingana, and in fact one of our viewers accused him perhaps of firing blanks. He and Debbie in Ohio, you're now wondering if there's something wrong with him, that he keeps hooking up with these ladies and seemingly failing to impregnate them. Debbie, I don't know. I must confess that I think it's quite possible. He's now mated with Karula. I think this will be the 3rd or 4th time without her falling pregnant. I think he's definitely mated with Shadow twice without her falling pregnant. The first time Sindila, her young 1-year-old cub, was still around, so maybe she wasn't really coming into a proper estrus. It's certainly, the evidence is starting to suggest that young Tingana is perhaps not physiologically all there. And while, I mean, when you watch them mate, it is interesting to see how, and this is not uncommon, I suppose, with leopards, where the female's got to kind of seduce the male and it looks like he's not interested at all. But Tingana really doesn't look like he's interested. It's always a huge effort for her to make him mate with her. So, I don't know, maybe his testosterone levels have dropped off for some reason. Maybe there's some dietary deficiency. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see going forward. We're just driving very, very slowly here, so I'm trying to see if I can pick up the tracks. Maybe a sound or two, checking in the boughs of a tree. Many people think that leopards are arboreal, i.e. they live in trees, which they don't. Lying in a tree, you should actually try it sometime. You've probably seen those classic pictures of leopards sort of draped over tree boughs. Normally what those pictures don't show you is the fact that there's a dead antelope hanging just next to them. And that's when they like to be in the trees, when they have something to stash away. But actually lying in the trees, I don't believe is that comfortable for them. And you should try it. They look very comfortable. If you lie down in a tree and hang your limbs over the side of it, it hurts your sternum. It's difficult to get comfortable. So they're not arboreal unless they've got something to eat or unless they feel very threatened. And they'll go up the tree. Liam is on to his third cup? First. Oh, he's only having his first cup of coffee as we speak. That's because the kettle didn't boil this morning. He would normally be on to his third or fourth. Lots of baby hippo tracks along this road, which is quite odd. Nothing in the way of male and female leopard tracks heading up the road. So apparently they were supposed to be in this block somewhere. Now, if they are mating and they have eaten, then the chances are they won't be moving out of the block too soon. So we'll just keep a beady eye on the road and also stop every so often to have a listen. I like this road at this time of the year because it's cool, it's quite low down, so it doesn't heat up quite as fast as the rest of the reserve. But I think come 8:30 when we wrap things up, it's going to be at least sort of 27 or 28 degrees. That's 82 in Fahrenheit. And by 2 o'clock this afternoon, apparently it's going to be pushing 40 degrees here, which is about 105 or 6 degrees Fahrenheit, so pretty warm today. That'll be made worse by the fact that we've had the rain, and so there'll be a lot of evaporation and moisture in the air, much humidity. Now, I think an excellent suggestion from Georgiana in Illinois. Maybe Karula and Shadow should go and look for Mvula. He's not too far away. He's at Nkoro. Now, he's been at Nkoro and Torchwood for the last little while, in fact for months. And he's kind of, you can see his tracks sometimes crossing here and then they disappear out again. But this area that we're driving around in now has had a complete dearth of male leopard activity for many months. And rather than them going there, Georgiana, I think he should come here. I think that would be a far better idea, and I really want to see him again. I've seen him sort of twice. Initially when I got here, twice, and I thought, well, this chap we'll watch often. and he then disappeared. I think probably because of pressure from Tingana. He's not a huge leopard, old Mvula, that's why I quite like him. There are some hyena tracks. I was getting hopeful briefly there. And I think that he should come back here. I think he'd have a good time. Plenty to eat. There's some impala there. He could eat them. They look like they'd make a good meal for a male leopard. There's not much other male leopard activity around here. We have a pretty drainage line, lots of nice trees. You've all heard the birds calling this morning. It's very attractive. A couple of good nice viewpoints for him to look at. Coral doesn't have many viewpoints. I mean, Djuma is perfectly set up for a young male leopard to enjoy. Untapped real estate as far as the leopards are concerned. So I have not seen any tracks. Obviously I haven't. I would have shouted and screamed with great joy if I had. Plenty of hyena going down this road. Let's just stop and have a listen here. There's a hornbill there we can look at. The hornbill's got a little friend next to him. A rattling cisticola. Now we don't often see them. We hear them all the time. There, that's him there. And you will recognize him because he's almost unrecognizable, given how totally drab and brown he is. He's what is known in birding parlance as an LBJ, a little brown job. There you can hear the orange-breasted bushshrike. I'm sorry, I'm going to ask you to just go back to the hornbill and get in on his face if you can. You see how red his face is? Everybody, he's got a red bill, but also very red around the face. And that, I believe, is an indication that mating is either about to take place or has taken place. That's the red-billed hornbill, obviously because he has a red bill. It's a little territorial call that he's making there. That is the sound of the black-crowned chagra. Alright, can't hear any vociferous growling from any... Ooh, hang on 1 second, let's go forward very slightly. What have we here, Liam? Those are all hyenas. Yeah. They're all hyenas. I saw a whole lot of footprints on the road, everybody. I'll show you what I was looking at. Yeah, you see these ones? You can see here it looks like a large pawed animal has walked down the road, which of course it has. And this is a hyena. And from where you're sitting, you won't be able to see exactly the difference between this hyena and the leopard track, but it is very distinct. The most obvious distinction is that this hyena track has got 4 claws in it, and it's kind of messy. A hyena track is kind of squashed together. The toes and the back pad look squashed, and they're kidney shaped. And a leopard is the most perfect kind of symmetrical paw print, and the toes are slightly exploded away from the back pad, and they just look very neat. You can they feel like leopard tracks, and the hyena ones feel like hyena tracks, kind of messy and right. We're going to go down here. So then we would have circumnavigated the block where they were seen last night. Lovely smells as well, very subtle. Sweet bits and pieces of flower that you drive past. They just touch the air with a very pretty smell. Now, many of you have been watching the developments of the two almost 3-year-old cubs. Well, listen, they can't hardly be called cubs anymore, I suppose. Sub-adult, Kunuma and Quarantine, who were born to Karula and Mvula a while back, or 3 years ago. And Siberia Zumi, good question. What are the chances of them becoming dominant in this area? Siberia, I think it's highly unlikely that they will become dominant in this area and then mate with their mother, A, and B, their auntie. No, not their auntie, their sister. So Shadow is their sister, or half-sister, as far as I'm aware, and Karula's their mother. Now, the chances of them mating are small because Mvula and Tingana, the two dominant males of the area, are still in pretty good nick. Mvula looked a little bit ropey at one stage. His eye certainly bugged him a bit, but he didn't really lose condition. So I think that he and Tingana will remain dominant here. Normally the males move away from their natal territory to avoid that kind of inbreeding. But it's possible. It's not impossible that they should inbreed, and it also is not particularly detrimental. Good question, Siberia, but I think the two males are in pretty good nick. That said, I mean, there's literally nothing going on here in terms of male leopard activity, other than, I mean, Tingana has come in to this area. I haven't seen him around here, but I've seen him around the Djuma Dam, of course, when he was mating with Shadow a little while back. Here we go. Yeah, that's the lion from yesterday. That's the male lion track from yesterday. Unfortunately, not the leopard. Now, what we did see a little while back, let me go back down this road, Jumpy. What we did see a little while back, of course, was Karula mating. She probably hasn't conceived if she's trying to mate again, and so Raisa in Finland. If you want to know when will they come back into estrus, I think pretty much within the next 2 days, so not 2 days, 2 weeks. So when they mate, the male and female will be together for 5 days or so. They'll mate probably 5 times an hour for those 5 days, with probably brief breaks of a few hours in length while they eat or go hunting. And then when she comes out of estrus, she'll move away. If she doesn't then conceive, I think it's been 3 weeks. 2.5 to 3 weeks since we last saw them mating, and she's back in estrus now if they're mating, so that's not unusual. She'll keep coming into estrus probably at 2 and 3 week intervals, but for her not to be, after 4 efforts at mating, for her not to be pregnant now is quite bizarre. Either she's not ovulating, or, as we said, Tingana is not functioning as he should. Given that older Shadow also has failed to fall pregnant to him, maybe he has got some troubles. I don't know where these guys went, especially if we're right around where they were supposed to have been seen yesterday. I have not seen one track. And even I, who isn't the greatest tracker in the world, should have been able to pick these up. Anyway, we'll keep looking. Once we've done this loop around, we'll go back towards Treehouse Dam and then up towards the western side of the reserve, see what we can pick up there. Now apparently, how unsurprising, Wendy has decided that she doesn't wish to go on game drive this morning. She's a bit like a sort of celebrity, Wendy, who, you know, performs on the odd occasion when she feels like it. So Brent is going to be going out on the bushwalk with Jean-Dre, and as soon as they're up and running, they'll give you an update as to what they're doing. Right, I have seen absolutely no evidence of any leopard in this area, so I think we're going to move in a slightly wider arc now. Right, so we keep using the term drainage line, and I was shouted at the other day by our erstwhile Commander-in-Chief, Graham Wallington. He said to me, you can't use the term drainage line because nobody knows what it means. And I told him he was being silly. Well, I didn't say it like that, I was much more diplomatic. And Ken, in Australia, you've just asked, what is a drainage line? Is it a naturally forming riverbed? So I eat my words. I think it is a term that we use out here, and I actually remember when I started in the year 2000 out here, I remember being confused by the term drainage line. What it means, Ken, is absolutely, it's a naturally formed creek or gully. It's basically a dry riverbed, dry stream rather than riverbed, and sometimes they will flow after huge amounts of rain. But so we're driving next to one now. I'll show you what I mean here. So this is a drainage line here, and you can see there's no water flow in it, and there would only ever be water flow after a sort of flash flood. And leopards love to walk along drainage lines like this because of the trees and the shade afforded by those trees. So Ken, in Australia, I don't recall ever hearing from you before, so if this is your first contribution to our show, thank you for it, and please keep talking to us. So this is indeed a drainage line, a dry riverbed, a dry stream is the best way to describe it. Thank you for that, Ken. Thank you for putting me in my place. It's required every so often. I'm sorry, I've got a question through here. It's a good question, I think, from Donna Wan in Maine. Unfortunately, I missed the question because the dear Tara in Final Control got a little tongue-tied on the word testicular. It's about rattling testiculars. Tara, I'm afraid you're going to have to go with it again. All I got was testiculars. Oh, I see. Right, Donna Wan, you want to know if the testicular actually rattles when it pulls. It does. It goes choo choo choo, da 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 da, choo choo choo, da 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 da, and it's that. I'm not doing it very well, but that last little bit sounds like a rattle. If we hear one, I'll show you what I mean. Testicular, Tara. Say it 10 times. Testicular. Sometimes also known as testicola. Yes, and that's called throwing the director under the bus. It's not a very clever idea, because she, of course, would far more in the way of control than I do. So So Liam, have you seen leopard tracks? Being very quiet back there.
No, it is zebra.
Zebra. I don't know what this guy was talking about, I must say. So you also saw, I suppose, when we came past this little dam called Treehouse Dam earlier, no water in it yet, and that's after 30 millimeters of rain. So I think we're going to probably need about 100 or so before they will start to collect and hold water. There's no question that the rain we've had will have raised up the water table, and that will make a big difference to the grasses, especially. They're definitely flushing a lot more than they were 2 days ago, and a hot day like this is going to make them do even more. I also think that there's going to be an explosion of dung beetles. There are some impala, given the absence of any other kind of animal to look at the moment. Let's look at the beautiful impala streaming through the bushes. Two males on their own, which is not particularly usual for this time of year. Lovely. And the dawn chorus is already starting to calm because the heat is building. Now I want to show you something interesting on the front. I'll roll back a little bit. It's not going to have a happy ending, the story, I'm afraid. I'm going to show it to you anyway. I was talking earlier about the termites when we started. Here is a new termite mound. So 2 royal termites have gone down, managed to make a little bit of a hole in the ground here, and they've started a new termite mound. Unfortunately, they've picked a particularly stupid area to do it, so I don't think they're going to survive very long. I will drive around them, but inevitably someone is going to come down the road and drive over this little termite mound. Isn't it a dinky little thing? So the 2 of them will be underground now on honeymoon. I'm in the process of trying to start breeding, and I'm afraid I think their little honeymoon is going to be the last part that they play in the ecosystem of this magical area. Poor little fellows. Well, one fellow, one fellas. So let's go around the side of them. Good luck, chaps. Well, you know, as with people, never say never. There might be particularly stoic termites that can move to another area. I don't think so. Remember, they lose their wings almost immediately. I'm just going to get an update from Taxon. Go ahead. I've done a whole block between Weaver's Nest and Twin Dams and Elephant Skull and Chelapan, and I haven't seen one track of those 2 leopards, so I'm now checking Savages back towards Philemon's Catline. Okay, copy that. I'll do Philemon's Cutline and then Zoe's. Is that where are you checking? Okay, copy. I'll do Finn's Road then. Alright, so interestingly, Taxon is in this area, and he says, sorry, that's of course you're looking at a Steenbok there. And the tracks Taxon found them. They're in an area we haven't driven today, and he's now checking around here. So we're going to go and join him. We'll go the other way around the block, and maybe we'll pick something up. And it would probably be a pretty good idea to send Brent into this area too, because he'll be on foot. But I don't know if they'll get signal here. So that's a little steenbok who didn't think that we'd seen her, or him, no horns. And they're known as steenbok, stone buck, because they lie down like that, like stone. So just to give you an idea where we are, you've got quarantine clearings around where we started, then you've got a whole slope down from there that heads towards Philemon's Dip or Philemon's Cut Line, and we think that the leopards might be in that area. The track's headed into that block, but like I say, because of the crust on top of the soil, it's very difficult to try and pick up what's going on. So Brent is going to come into that area on foot. So that's the best way, of course, to be looking for leopards. You don't have the noise of the car, and you can also see the ground a bit more easily, but you can't cover as much ground. So we'll keep driving slowly along. Just a lovely morning, this, but not a cloud in the sky. Those little termite mounds that we were looking at, they only take probably a night to construct the little the new royals, and eventually, I mean, if they survive, they'll turn into that. And that to me is just an astonishing thing. They start off as those tiny little things, and they're actually all over the road now. I've seen many, many, many of them. Some of them in the middle of the road and totally unavoidable. The lucky ones will end up in a great big mound like that. Oh yes, I have lots of ballooning spiders attached to me. And lots of you will be saying, oh, that's terrible, spiders. Most spiders out here are completely harmless. In fact, 90% of them. There are some beautiful things. Look at those that just popped out. Wonderful. These, everybody, are called crinum lilies. Lots of different species of crinum lily that we get here, but these ones are particularly nice. Oh, and the smell is absolutely delightful. It's got a game drive coming up behind us. Good morning. Good luck. You should smell those flowers.
Yeah.
The big thing, if you ever come out here, you will undoubtedly come out here to try and find things like those mating leopards, or the elephants, or the buffalo, or the other huge animals, the giraffe, wild dogs. But to drive past something like that and not get a sense of its unbelievably nice smell, well, I just think is a waste. And they smell like, if you could, I mean, they smell a little bit like the lilies you would buy at a florist, I suppose, just a lot more subtle. Everything out here, smell-wise, well, the flowers, they tend to be a lot more subtle. And that's because, of course, they're not selectively bred for their smell at all, but just the sweetest, most lovely smell. One day, they will be able to transfer smell through the internet, and then I'll be able to more accurately describe what it smells like. It's kind of a sweet lily smell. I don't know really how else to describe it. Right, on we go. That was Ephraim who went past us, everybody. He's come into the area to try and help us track the leopards. Brent Leo Smith is hailing me. Go ahead, Brent. Yeah, affirmative. Thanks, Brent. So Brent is going to come down into this area now, and I'm sure he'll update you as he goes along. He's with Jean-Dre. I'm inspired by that lily. Now again, we're just going to keep driving at this very sedate pace. Right. Brent Leo Smith, the inimitable, highly enthusiastic and big-footed, is ready to tell you what he's going to be doing. He's somewhere in this block here. I'll see you a little bit later.
Hello everyone and welcome on the Sunrise Walking Safari. My name is Brent Leo Smith. I have Jean-Dre on camera. We are now in this area where the last set of those mating leopard tracks were seen. Obviously being on foot without having that engine noise, we're hoping to actually catch audio of them, which will make it quite a lot easier for us to find them. Other than that, we will try to find some tracks. And what we're listening for is a very strange sound. If there are any new viewers who haven't seen the mating leopards before, they sort of sound like this. So a very, very strange sound, and we're hoping we're going to be able to hear that and hopefully find them on foot for the vehicles. So there's this drainage system up ahead of us here, and that's where the last set of leopard tracks went into. So we're going to be walking very slowly and very carefully, seeing if we can find them. It'll be really, really exciting if we do manage to find them on foot. It is possibly one of the most exciting things you can do on a walking safari. So we're listening for lots of different things. Not only are we listening for that very strange noise, we also listening for different alarm calls. So even a bird can give away a leopard's position. So we're coming through the edge of this seep line now. You can see all the silver cluster leaves in front of us. There's a nice open patch there of good grasses, and the head of that little drainage line is there. So we're going to systematically work our way down the whole drainage system, hopefully with some luck. So you're going to stay with us just for a little bit as we pop through these trees. You never know, we might see the leopards out in the open on the other side. So after that little bit of rain, seeing tracks is going to be a little bit more challenging, and that's why it's much easier for us on foot to be able to see the tracks. We can obviously take our time a little bit. We're much closer to the ground, and we can check very, very carefully. So up ahead here is the head of the drainage line, and here it flows from the west to the east to about there, and then at the bottom end of Quarantine it cuts south. So we're going to start up here and work our way slowly through there. It does look like we're looking for a needle in a haystack, but hopefully with a little luck and some experience we'll be able to find them. It's really awesome being on foot in the early morning. It is one of my favorite times of the day. All the different birds calling, and lovely fresh smell, a little bit of moisture in the ground. As we walk, we're listening very carefully. So while we're in search of these mating leopards, there's been some questions about the virility of poor Tingana, and Jana's wondering, can a female leopard sense if he is virile, and if not, will she move out and look for a different male that might be able to impregnate her? Well, Jana, even if he isn't virile, she will still keep mating with him. The reason for that is that because her cubs might be born in his area and she might spend a lot of time in his area, she will always mate with as many males as possible so they all think that they're the daddy. So even if he isn't virile, she will still mate with him, so he will think those are his cubs. And to be honest, I don't know whether a female leopard can pick up virility in a male. A very interesting question, something definitely worth pondering. But regardless of virility, she will mate with him to ensure the safety of her cubs. Look, just stopping and listening every now and then. At the moment, all I can hear is green pigeons and rattling cisticulars. Also, with all the leaves coming out of the trees now, the sound's not going to carry as much as it would when there's no leaves on the trees. So we have to listen a little bit more carefully. Fortunately, there's no strong wind at the moment, so if we do hear it, we can pinpoint it quite easily. But while we carry on and head down into the drainage, we're going to go see what James has got.
Now, Brent is not far from where we are now, but we are not alone here. There is a massive elephant bull in front of us. We're just trying to sneak a bit closer to him without irritating him at all. He is a good sized bull. He's probably 6 tons worth of pachyderm. Swaggering through the bush here. And there you can get an idea of him. Stop here. He's very conscious of us. And he's just feeding through here. Look at him, isn't it wonderful as the sun catches him? He's a huge fellow. I will try and get another view for you now. Let's just see where he moves. He was lurking in this area, not moving too much, and then suddenly he decided that he was going to seek out something to eat deeper into the block. So let's just see what he does. I think what he's probably looking for is a stand of decent length of grass. Let's go around him a bit. The sun is not ideal for us here, but what we don't want to do is ideally we don't want to crash around in the bush too much, irritate him, so we want to stay standing where he is. Go around a bit here. Watch your head here, everybody. Watch heads. Don't put your hands out. You might get caught with thorns. He's now absconding. Astonishing to watch an enormous animal like that walking so comfortably through the bush and so silently where we struggle. I mean, this car probably weighs less than a sixth of what he does, and yet he's just kind of floating through here, and we are making an enormous noise. Now we're about probably 50 meters from him, which is roughly 170 feet or so, and you can see he's still filling up the frame. He is massive. I was trying to see what he's eating. Well, now he's eating some Combretum, but he was picking quite selectively a few bits and pieces off the ground. Sorry, the reason I've gone totally silent is I'm listening to the radio. Yeah, nothing, no updates on the radio. Let's just go a little bit forward. We're in this area where the leopards were, so it's a good idea to just moving here slowly and listening carefully to see if there isn't any growling. And if you've never seen leopards mating before, they make a huge noise. Okay, now this is a very good question coming through from David in New Jersey. Thank you, David. I haven't been quite clear enough. David, you want to know about Ephraim. We saw Ephraim and you said, does he work for Wild Earth? And if not, why is he trying to help us find the leopards? He isn't. David, we share this reserve with a number of other commercial safari operations, and Ephraim is taking a game drive. He works at a place called Cheetah Plains, which is to the south of Juma, where we operate, and he works there as a safari guide, and he and his guests are driving around here, as you are my guests. So he has 6 guests with him, and he's looking around for the leopards. He wants to show them to his guests. Isn't that beautiful? Let's just move a little bit forward again and see. He seems to be relaxing with us now. Angel Lady and Barbara, who asked about his tusks and how long are they? They're not very long. they're certainly quite pointy at the end there. You don't want to be on the sharp end of one of those. And you want to know, is he... Oh, Barbara, you say one of them looks a bit worn down. Yeah, his left tusk does look a little bit shorter than his right one. As you probably know, they can be left and right tusked, like you are left and right-handed. And so he's probably worn the left one down a bit. But I think they're also different angles, and that's just a genetic, not anomaly, but certainly a genetic predisposition to having slightly different, you know, they're never quite symmetrical, but they're not huge tusks by any stretch. I can't really get through this patch of bush here. I think we might just go back to where we were and wait for him to finish eating where he was, unless we try and sneak through here again. Now the reason it's so difficult to maneuver in a relatively open block like this is because the elephants have made such a mess. They come in the winter time and they push all the trees over, or a lot of the trees, and then you can't drive around. So they really are very messy eaters. They do not wash up in the kitchen at all. We're quite close, but well, very like Brent. I didn't want to say it, Ben, but I'm happy you did. Now we're pretty close to him now. We've closed the distance to about 30 meters, 90 feet. So let's just see how comfortable he remains. If he gets a little uncomfortable, then we'll probably move off. But he's now making short work of a ziziphus or buffalo thorn tree. He's a magnificent bull, this he really is. And his tusks, sorry, Angel Lady, I just said his tusks weren't very long. I didn't tell you exactly how long they are. The exposed bit are probably only 1.5 feet, so not very long. But they, of course, go all the way into the top of the brain, or into the top of the skull, not quite into the brain. So that, you know, at their full extent, they're probably about 3 feet long. But as far as tusks go, they're not very long. Now, look at that, isn't that wonderful? I was just reading about ivory the other day, and in the 1830s, when ivory hunting was particularly, it was the sort of peak of the ivory hunting that went on in this area, they were exporting up to 250 tons of ivory a year from this area. 250 tons of ivory. That's 250,000 kilograms of ivory were being taken, shot out of this place by the middle of the 19th century. It is unsurprising, therefore, that when the Kruger National Park was proclaimed in 1926, or its precursor, the Sabi Game Reserve in 1910, there were almost no elephants left in the area at all. I think there were 8 or 10 left. Now, the reason these chaps with these kind of relatively small tusks are the most common elephants here are because those hunters and traders in ivory shot out all the big tuskers, and their genetics have long since died in the populations here. He's still a magnificent fellow though. So, just because of what I've been saying, you can tell that it's probably not possible to age an elephant from his tusks because they are so variable. So Tina and Lucy, Tina, you're in California, good place to be. In Indiana, where you are, Lucy, I've never been there. Sounds like quite a nice place to be, I must say. Probably a bit chilly at this time of the year. So you can't age an elephant by his tusks. I suppose by the wear and tear on his tusks, you might be able to get an idea. But the best way to age an elephant is from his size and his kind of body condition and any tears or rips there might be in his skin. I think this elephant's about 30 30 to 35 years old. He's a good sized bull, pretty much in his prime. He's not in must. Now must, of course, is their time of mating, their time of breeding, and he is not in that particular time. That's why he's so relaxed with us here. I hope he's going to remain so. He seems to be pretty chilled with us for now. So he's definitely watching us very carefully. He's huge. He's absolutely huge. I'm just trying to give you an idea of how big he is. At the shoulder he stands, he must be probably 10 feet. He's probably 10 feet at the shoulder, maybe even a little bit taller. And he's flapping his ears like that to stay cool. As the sun starts to heat up and warms his head, so he will flap his ears to cool the blood that is pumping through the veins in his ears, and that blood will go to his brain and keep his enormous brain cool, and that of course will operate the rest of his bodily functions. The heat is already starting to build. Look at the glistening ivory in the sun there. And he's eating so subtly for an elephant. Well, elephants can feed very subtly if they like to. You know, they can pick up individual fruits off the ground with that dexterous trunk with its prehensile tip. Trivium will show you now. You can see the end of his trunk has got two little fingers on it. There they are. Amazingly delicate if they want to be, and incredibly brutal and indelicate if they don't want to be. And he's being tremendously confiding with us. We're pretty close to him. We're about 25 meters to. And he's just feeding quietly, taking almost no notice of us. That said, he will be watching us quite carefully. Despite their immense size, elephants can often be quite threatened, or feel quite threatened. And he's just smelling us. Now, Brent Leo Smith, as he may have told you, has just been in the Kruger, and he had some wonderful sightings. It's still a great place to go and visit there. You've just seen now why his left-hand tusk is a bit more worn than his right. He uses it to pick branches. Siberia, you said you want to know in the Kruger if there are any... Sorry, I'm going to get back to you now, Siberia. Brent is hailing me on the radio, and because he's on foot, I'm going to just get hold of him. Go ahead. Brent, I didn't know you were following an elephant bull, and Mole is just off Finns Road. I'm watching him now. Yeah, he's quite a way off the drainage line still. Copy. So Brent's just asking, he's looking for the leopards, but he found some elephant bull tracks, and he wanted to know how close this elephant bull was, which is good information to have if you're knocking about on foot. Siberia, you want to know if there could possibly be some elephants left from the 30s in the Kruger. No. That would make them 85 years old if they were born in 1930. So it would be highly, highly unlikely. An elephant's age in this area is limited to 55 to 60 years, maybe up to 65. 85 would be a real push. And remember, when I was talking about those tusks, it's the 19th century, so in the 1830s and 40s is when it hit its real peak around here. By the time the Kruger was eventually proclaimed, and I mean the idea behind it started in 1898, but even by then there were almost no elephants left in this area. They'd been hunted out. And we had a question the other day from somebody about local people and their effects on wildlife populations. They had an almost completely negligible effect on wildlife populations before the white man arrived with his guns. And the interesting thing is, of course, that conservation is a tremendously contested space throughout the world, especially in South Africa, and not so much now, but it certainly used to be. Look at that unbelievable trunk, eh? And it's a contested space because so often indigenous peoples were excluded from wildlife areas, but they actually had a very negligible effect on the wildlife. It was the very people that proclaimed the wildlife areas that caused the problem in the first place, and so that's why it tended to be a very contested space. Less so now, but still very sensitive areas, and you've got to be very sensitive about dealing with what can be tremendously sensitive emotional issues. Oh, he's just magnificent. Enjoying his Saturday morning brunch. There you can see him using his tusk. Yeah, he's using that tusk as a kind of lever to snap off the branches. I love the Twitter handles that some people have. Granny Billy Joe in Florida. Granny Billy Joe. I think that's a marvellous Twitter handle you have there. And you're in Florida, where I think the weather is always nice, isn't it? So it's probably quite similar to where it is, to what it is now here. And you want to know if elephants, or is it true that elephants get bigger as they get older? It is, and they grow until they die. Actually, it slows down a bit as they get towards their peak years of 60 and 65. But you're absolutely right, they do get bigger and bigger the older they get. And this elephant is smelling us all the time. His nose is every so often twitches towards us. And I think we're probably going to, we'll watch him a little bit longer. You can see that he's going to probably melt off into the bush now. And while he's doing that melting off, you may have even been able to hear him sighing and breathing. And Janet in Maryland, you say you've read that an elephant bull, or an elephant, has its lungs attached to its ribs. And you say it's one of the only mammals that has that. And could that be a hangover, if you like, from its sort of distant evolutionary past, when it was related to whales, perhaps, or to oh, okay, let's quickly go across to Brent. He's also got a bull elephant, but he's on foot. See you now. Sorry, we had to crash cut back. I thought that might happen. Alright, so, Janet, the elephant's just wandering off through there. You think, and you're asking, would it be an adaptation to water pressure, to being able to deal with water pressure? No, I don't think so. I think it's an adaptation to the fact that the position of the lungs in the body, and the fact that if you are attached to the rib cage, it's probably easier to expand the lungs. When we inhale, of course, we do open up our chest cavity a bit, and we drop our diaphragm, and that expands the lungs. I think it's probably a similar adaptation in elephants, but because everything's so much bigger, it probably helps them to be attached to the lungs. Remember, and Steph and I were discussing this the other day, remember that the cetaceans, or marine mammals that have ended up in the sea, mammals on land didn't develop from them, it's the other way around. As far as we understand it, cetaceans were mammals that went back into the sea. So unlike the reptiles which developed from fish that came out of the sea, the cetaceans are mammals that decided that they didn't like it too much on the land. They went back into the sea and adapted to conditions there. So it's not the other way around as far as we understand it. Okay, I think we're going to leave this fellow and we'll head back towards roundabout where those leopards were walking. Nobody's had any luck with them, but we'll keep looking, and it's certainly getting pretty warm out here, isn't it, Liam? I think it's probably sitting already at about 26, 27 degrees. Right, what a lovely sighting, and I just find it so precious when elephants are prepared to let you sit next to them like that. They don't react to you, they don't approach you, they just get on with life, and as if to say, well, nice to have you, don't mind me, I'm just going to carry on eating. And I think that's just such a wonderful relationship to have with them. Oh, gosh. Alright, let's get out of here. There's a little loop through the block on the off chance those leopards are sitting in the marula tree close by. Just stop and look at these lovely birds. Park in the shade. Look at them. Those are the magpie shrikes. And just listen to their call. Isn't that amazing? It's like the woodwind section of an orchestra sort of warming up and tuning up. Alright, let's go back to Brent. I think they've sorted out the technical issues and he's still with that elephant. We'll see you now.
Well, you never know what you're going to come across when you're walking after leopards, and I know James is with a nice big Ellie bull, and we've got one of our own here in the drainage line. The bush is quite thick here, so we're not going to try approach him, and he's just get his ears flapping there behind the bush. There he is. You just see those big ears cooling himself down. It is going to be a scorcher. But unfortunately, no leopard tracks yet. No sound of leopards mating yet. But we're in the right zone. And that's what's important. You can see, nice big relaxed bull feeding. Unfortunately, we are right on top of a termite mound in the middle of the drainage line. So as soon as we drop down, our signal's gonna drop, but we're gonna carry on, and we are hopefully close to these leopards now. This is this thick drainage system that they're possibly hiding in, and mating leopards really like to spend their times in drainage lines. Cool, good place to rest. So we're gonna keep on sneaking in and out of the drainage line, seeing if we can find the leopards and maybe some more elephants. You never know. That's the most amazing thing about being in the bush. You actually don't know what you're going to find around the next bend.
Hello everyone again, sorry, excuse my rude, oh, I think that is, we almost just spotted a weird piece of dung. Let's pick it up and have a look. This is Leon. I don't want to touch it because lion dung is the most disgusting thing in the world. Let's see if we can spike it. There it is. That is the hair that has come out of a lion's bowels some time back. I'm not going to put my nose to it. I'm not going to get anywhere closer to it than I am right now. As you can see, the hair is indigestible even to the acidic stomach of a lion. And I've actually just uncovered a sort of carrion beetle. I'm not going to pick him up either because he will be covered in what this was covered in. And a little beetle that makes its living eating disgusting things like lion dung. I'm so glad I wasn't born one of those carrion-eating, lion dung-consuming beetles. That would have been a greater miscarriage, I feel, of justice. I suppose if you are one of these that believes in reincarnation, you've probably done something pretty appalling in a previous life to come back as a carrion beetle and spend it your entire short adult life sitting under a pile of lion dung. Yeah. The road is not far from us, but I cannot find a path through. There we go. That will get us through to the road. There's not so much elephant mess in this particular area. Oh, look at that. Can you see him, Jim? They will all be out after the rain. Not a leopard, but a leopard tortoise. And he is moving stealthily, not that a tortoise can do anything else, towards the shade. He's heard us coming, hasn't decided quite, nothing is... his fairly dense tortoise brain has not managed to figure out if we're a threat or not yet, so rather than disappear into his shell, he is attempting to move with the speed of a chameleon towards the shade. It is amazing how if he doesn't move, he blends right in. Looks like a little stone. There. Isn't he lovely? We'll try and get a little bit closer to him. I don't want to provoke any kind of aggression from the tortoise though. You know, tortoise can be a terrifying thing when it's in full charge.